Okay. How we got here, the Acts Chronicles. This is number 10, episode number 10. The Pentecostal days are over today. Grace reigns. And thank God the Pentecostal days are over, okay? Today, there's no speaking in tongues. There's no divine healing. There's no miracles. Grace reigns. God is dealing graciously with us, and let's examine this thing out of out of the book of Acts. Now, last time we said that not even one said that any of his possessions are his own, but it was all theirs in common. In other words, these guys were in the first year after Christ presented himself alive after his suffering on the cross. The miracles started happening, all right? And there was so many people that joined the church, at least 5,000, that they had to, take care of everybody and feed them and give them a place to sleep. And a lot of people sold their possessions and shared all that they had. And with great power, the apostles rendered the testimony of the resurrection of Jesus Christ, the Lord. Besides, a great grace was on them all, for neither was there any indigent among them, for whoever belonged to the acquirers of the freeholds or of houses, selling these, they brought the price of what is being disposed of and placed it at the feet of the apostles. Okay? Now it was distributed to each for as much as some would have need. All right. Now get this. This is why I say the age of the apostle of the Pentecostal powers and healing are over. Okay. Now Joseph, who by the apostles is surnamed Barnabas, which is being construed son of consolation, a Levite, a native Cyprian, selling a field belonging to him, brings the money and places it at the feet of the apostles. And now a certain man named Ananias, together with his wife Sapphira, sells an acquisition and embezzles from the price, his wife also having been conscious of it, and bringing a certain part of the price, he places it at the feet of the apostles. Now Peter said, Ananias, wherefore does Satan fill your heart to falsify to the Holy Spirit and embezzle from the price of the freehold? Did it not while remain yours? And being disposed of, it belonged to you by right? Why is it that you place this matter in your heart? You do not lie to men, but to God. Now, Ananias, hearing these words, falling down, gives up the soul. And great fear came on all those hearing these things. Now rising, the younger men enshroud him, and carrying him out, they entomb him. Now it occurred after an interval of about 3 hours that his wife, not being aware of what has occurred, entered. And Peter said to her, tell me if you took so much pay for the freehold. And she said, yes, so much. Now Peter said to her, why is it that you agreed to try the Spirit of the Lord? Lo, the feet of those who entomb your husband are at the door, and they shall be carrying you out. Now instantly she falls at his feet and gives up the soul. Now entering, the youths found her dead and carried her out. They entombed her with her husband, and great fear came on the whole ecclesia and on all those who hear these things. Okay, what's going on here? They're in a different age than we are today. We'll call it the Pentecostal age, because Peter and John were performing miracles almost accidentally, right? Because Peter said clearly, when they brought him before the high priest, he said, when he spoke to the crowd, he said, men, brethren, it's not like our devotion and our power healed this invalid. It wasn't that we're devout. and we have great power. No, it was God was doing something magnificent in this, starting with the second chapter of Acts, going all the way through where we are now. Where are we? 3 or 4? Back it up, back it up, back it up, and it's chapter 5. Okay. So there's a lot of power going on. So they're speaking in tongues, and the building shakes when they pray. Man, that's something that you can't fake today. But I'm saying that there are a lot of fake Christians out there today and fake Pentecostals who pretend like they're speaking in tongues, and a hell of a lot of them who pretend like they're healing the lame, and you hear rumors of raising the dead. But I'm telling you, the Pentecostal days are over. Today, grace reigns, and let's thank God that the Pentecostal days are over, because if we still had those Pentecostal days, we would have this story of Ananias and Sapphira from the 5th chapter of the book of Acts, where Ananias, he sees everyone else selling all of their possessions and dropping all the money off at the feet of the apostles so they can take care of folks. He wants in on the glory and the little pat on the head. So he sells a freehold that he has. It's called a freehold. He sells a piece of property, but he holds back some of the money. It's his to hold back. He doesn't have to donate it all. There's no rule. There's no written law that they have to, give it all. But it's just generally thought at this time that there's so much excitement going on that everybody who sells a piece of property, they have no interest in earthly possessions. They're dropping the money off at the feet of the apostles, okay? And so Ananias drops off a bunch of money, but he didn't drop it all off. He wanted the praise, and the adulation from the other saints, but he was a tricker. And I tell you, this is an element that we always have to deal with, especially in popular Christian circles where you're doing a lot of devotion for show. And Ananias and Sapphira were doing devotion for show. They wanted the praise of man and the praise of the brothers. And so Peter challenged Ananias and said, hey, Satan has filled your heart. You lied about this whole matter. And Ananias dropped dead. Now, if the Pentecostal days were here and we legitimately spoke in tongues and made the invalids to walk and raise the dead, this would also occur, because this is just another of those powerful miracles that falls into the same category where Ananias drops dead instantly. They entomb him. His wife comes in, and Peter says to his wife, hey, did you sell that piece of property for X amount? And she said, oh, yeah, we sold it for X amount. And then she drops dead. Okay? That would be happening also because of the dynamics of God dealing in that age and about ready to present the kingdom to Israel. But see, Peter and John don't know that there's this secret going on that God has planned to be gracious and so show absolute grace to the Gentiles. And that won't come up for a couple more chapters when God calls Saul, the bad boy Saul, and knocks him on his butt. And some years later starts introducing Saul, his new name is Paul, introducing him and revealing to him that God is now going to be gracious, absolutely gracious to the Gentiles, and there's no necessity for Pentecostal miracles or Pentecostal people dropping dead like Ananias and Sapphira. So you have to look at Ananias and his wife Sapphira in the same category as speaking in tongues and healing the lame and making the building shake when the saints pray together. This is all part of the same demonstration of how God is dealing and presenting himself at that time through Peter and John and the saints in Jerusalem. He's not doing that now, okay? Paul tells us later that he's not doing that now. So let's hop over to where Paul hints, a great big hint, in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, the love chapter, okay? First verse, if I should be speaking in tongues of men and of angels, messengers, right? And have no love, I become a resounding copper or a clanging cymbal. So here he is, the great Paul, our apostle, the apostle of the Gentiles, and he's saying, if I speak in tongues and have not love, what is he doing? He's discounting tongues right off the bat, right? Hop down to verse 9. For out of an installment we are knowing, and out of an installment we are prophesying. He's minimalizing prophecy. Hey, Pentecostal boys and girls, wake up. Tongues is being minimalized in chapter 13, marginalized, and prophecy is being marginalized. Verse 10, now whenever maturity may be coming, what? What is this maturity? It's that grace reigns. That grace, God is dealing graciously with the Gentile boys and girls. He doesn't require works of law. He doesn't require you to do anything. He is gracious to you. Now, whenever maturity may be coming, that which is out of an installment is discarded. When I was a minor, I spoke as a minor. I was disposed as a minor. I took account of things as a minor. But when I became a man, I discarded that which is a minor's. So I'm telling you, we can discard tongues and healing and the building shaking and watching Ananias and Sapphira drop dead when they lie about how much they sold the property for. Number 12. For at present we are observing by means of a mirror in an enigma, yet then face to face. At present I know out of an installment. So Paul, he knew things out of an installment. He didn't know everything all at once. Hey, that's worth noting. Yet then I shall recognize according as I am recognized also. Yet now remaineth faith, expectation, and love, these three, but the greatest of these is love. Okay, I'm racing through this, but I just wanted you to see that Paul, through his, shall we call it loose language, he gives us reason to think that tongues and prophecy are not the mature place. Whenever maturity is coming, different thing, it's a different ball game. And right here in the book of Acts, this is not a mature way God is dealing with humanity. It's still in an immature stage when he's dealing with Israel, who will be in the future. Israel, according to the prophecies, like in Revelation and so forth, Israel will have a hot and heavy place, and the miracles and signs will come back. But right now, God is graciously dealing with the Gentiles, and we don't have to worry about, seeing Ananias and his wife Sapphira dropping dead in the church meetings because they were hypocrites. God is even loving the hypocrites at the moment and dealing graciously with the hypocrites. Ananias and Sapphira were hypocritical. They wanted more praise than they deserved for dropping off the coins at Peter's feet. But God is being gracious with all kinds of sinners. He's gracious with the worst of sinners, and his name was Saul. It became Paul. He said he was the worst of sinners. Can we believe what God says in the scriptures? If Paul was the worst of sinners, Ananias and Sapphira were not the worst of sinners. But Ananias and Sapphira dropped dead, and Paul dropped to his butt. There's a difference. God is doing something different today than what he was doing in the early part of the book of Acts, and we're going to see, some more exciting stuff as we go along. I hope you enjoyed this little episode, and thanks for spending the morning with me. Grace to you. Bye for now.